Hey everybody, welcome to Workshop. Today I want to talk to you about trust. More specifically about trusting God. Here's what I want you to remember. God is reliable and He will never let you down. Now, that's a bold claim. Not very many things or people can make that claim because things break and people let us down. Even the best people, even the greatest toys will break, and even the nicest people will let us down. And because so many things let us down and disappoint us, we as humans have this tendency to look for things that won't disappoint us, things that will make us happy. And it's different for each person. Some people really like video games. Some people love reading. Some people like to make things and create things. But the problem is that we often look to those things to provide us with happiness, as the ultimate source of happiness. And even more than that, we trust those things to provide happiness. We believe that those are the things that are going to bring us the most joy in life. But the Bible says that the only thing that is completely trustworthy to provide us with joy and happiness is God. And anything else that we look to try to provide happiness instead of God is an idol. When we're trusting our video game to be the ultimate source of our joy, or we're trusting our book to be the ultimate source of our joy, we're putting those things as more important and more valuable than God. And we're trusting those things more than we're trusting God. And that should not be so. There's quite a few verses in the Bible that actually talk about this. There's some verses in the Psalms. Psalms is a great book, and there's some verses in the Psalms that talk about trusting idols or trusting God. Here's one in Psalm 31, verse 6. It says, "I hate those who pay regard to worthless idols, but I trust in the Lord." Here's another one from Psalm chapter 20, verse 7. "Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God." See, in both of these verses, there's somebody who's putting their trust in something other than God. Maybe it was an idol, maybe it was a king trusting his powerful army to provide him victory. But the psalmist, the author of these verses, is saying, no, the person you're supposed to trust isn't any of those things that look like they can provide really great things for you. You're supposed to put your trust in God. And these verses are all summed up by another verse that I'm sure you already know. It's in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 5. And here's what it says: "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding." Instead of looking to all those other things, trust in the Lord for your provision. Trust in the Lord for your joy, because that's the only one who can provide it. The people who wrote all of these verses understood that God is reliable. He will never let us down. Everything else will probably let us down at some point, but God never will. And maybe that's hard for you to believe. Maybe you're struggling to believe or to trust that God is reliable. After all, you can't see him. How do you know that he's not going to let you down? Let me read you another verse from the Psalms. This one is from Psalm chapter 34, verse 8. Here's what it says. "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him." Psalm 34 challenges us to experience the goodness of God for ourselves. Read the Bible and learn about God's goodness, or talk to an older Christian and ask them about God's goodness, or talk to God yourself and experience and learn about his goodness firsthand. Because the more familiar we become with who God is and what he does, the more we're going to be able to trust that he's reliable, the more we're going to be able to trust that he will never let us down. But it's not just in the good times that God is reliable. Even in the bad times, in the sad times, in the scary times, God is still trustworthy. Another verse from the Psalms, Psalm 56, verses 3 and 4 says, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust. I shall not be afraid." And Psalm 31, verse 14, "But I trust in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God." The writer of Psalm 31 is going through a really, really difficult time. Things are not going well in his life. But he decides that even though things are not going well, I'm going to trust in the Lord. Because he knew that God is reliable. Do you know that? Do you believe that? That instead of trusting in your friends or your toys to make your life great, you should be trusting in God. He's more powerful than everything, and he's more reliable than everything, and he will never let you down. But don't just take it from me.
Hey gang, welcome to the workshop Storytime. My name's Dustin, and I'd love to tell you a story about a time when I was a kid that I trusted in something that was a little bit silly. So let me take you back. It's a long time ago. When I was a kid about your age, I used to love to run around and play in the backyard with an airplane kind of like this. My actual airplane was a lot bigger, but you can picture me running around the backyard with this thing, zooming around, throwing it around the backyard. It flies pretty good too. But I was running along one day, dreaming and imagining as most young kids do. And as I held onto that plane and I ran super fast, it started to pick up. And I thought to myself, I would love to fly. If I ran fast enough, I bet you this thing would pick me up. I trust it would carry me. So you know what I decided to do? Don't ever do this. Promise. I decided to climb on top of my 2-car garage and go all the way up to the peak, grab onto my airplane, and run off the end of the garage and jump. The airplane kept going, but I fell straight to the ground. And as I lay on the ground with my back looking up to the sky, the airplane wings fluttered down next to me. I trusted that airplane to carry me, but it didn't. Now I was young and probably not as smart as most of you. So I decided maybe it was the airplane that was the problem and I needed a new idea. So I decided I would try doing a parachute instead of flying. So I went inside and I got a sack and I grabbed my grocery sack and I thought, yeah, that carries a little bit of weight. So maybe that'll pick me up and slow me down. So I got back up on top of the garage and I ran off the edge of the garage and I jumped and I fell fast. Right back down to where I was before. Hit the ground, still didn't learn my lesson. Some of you are thinking, that guy's insane. I'm smarter than that. I would never do that. You know what I decided? I probably am smarter than that, but I wasn't gonna let this garage beat me. So I didn't have a big enough parachute. So I decided instead, I was gonna go get a big, huge garbage sack, and I was going to have this thing carry me off of that garage. That's really loud, I know, but look at all the air it takes in. So I decided to jump off the garage with the huge garbage sack. And do you think it carried me? Nope. It fell straight to the ground, and so did I. I was trusting in some crazy things, and I thought, certainly there's got to be something better than this. So you know what I decided to do instead? I got myself some rope. I took some of that rope, and I took a sheet, and I tied that rope around the edge of that sheet, and I tied it onto all four corners. And once I had all four corners tied up, I threw that parachute behind me, and I tucked that rope under my arm on both sides, and I jumped off the garage with my sheet parachute, and I still fell straight to the ground. It's crazy. Thought I was trusting that. Maybe I didn't know what trust was. Maybe you don't either. Hey Google, define trust.
Here's the definition of trust. Firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something.
A firm belief in the ability or reliability or strength of someone or something. I think I had trust in my plane. I think I had trust in my sack. I think I had trust in my bag. I think I had trust in my parachute. But those were all misplaced trust. You know, I was looking in the scriptures, and in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, it tells us to trust in the Lord with all our heart and to not lean on our own understanding. And in all our ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct our paths. The Lord is God our Father. When it says to acknowledge Him, it means to regard Him or to think of Him and put Him into your life. Know that He's present, know that He's there. And so when God says that we can trust Him, then we should be able to. See, my plane never told me it would carry me. My bag, my sack, my parachute, it never told me it would carry me. But God has told us in the scriptures that we can trust Him and He'll direct our paths. That if we regard Him, He'll make our paths straight. Our Father is good, and I know I can trust my Heavenly Father. I have a son. His name's Ethan. I kind of wonder if he knows that same lesson. Why don't you come with me and we'll go ask Ethan if he trusts his father the same way we can trust our Father. Hey Ethan, I was going to ask you a favor. Do you trust me?
What's up with the rope?
Yeah, don't worry about the rope. I was just wondering if you could help me demonstrate for some friends of mine what it is to trust their father. Okay, do you know what a trust fall is?
Yes.
Have you ever done a trust fall before?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's going to be a pro at this, but let me explain to you what's going to happen. Ethan is my son, and he knows he can trust his father to not hurt him, right? Okay, so I'm going to ask him to turn around this way, and he's going to close his eyes, right? So he's not going to be able to see anything. His eyes are closed, and he's going to cross his arms, and he's going to fall backwards. Now, if I wasn't here to catch him, he would fall and hurt himself. But a trust fall works like this. I'm going to tell him that he can trust me. And he's going to say, all right, I believe I can trust you. And he's going to fall and I will catch him. So, Ethan, do you trust me?
Yes.
If you fall, I'll catch you. Go ahead and fall. See, he trusted me. He didn't panic. He didn't fall. He didn't bend his knees. That's a trust fall, right? Mm-hmm. You want to try it up higher? Don't tell mom we're doing this. Get up on the couch. Okay. You know, if you fall, I'll catch you. Do you trust me?
Yes.
Okay. Whoa. That was good trust there. Thanks, Ethan. Very good job. Okay, now we're going to show it the other way around. Okay? So, Ethan, if I fall, will you catch me? I can trust you. I trust you.
No.
Are you going to catch?
No, I can't.
Why can't you?
Because you're too big.
Because I'm too big? Well, can I trust you to catch me? No. So what happens if I trust somebody to catch me and they can't? It's going to have bad consequences. Which reminds me of a story I'd like to tell you about. A time I trusted in something I shouldn't have trusted in. So come with me. We'll go check it out. Come with me, and I want to tell you a story. About a time when I was a kid that I trusted in something that I probably shouldn't have. And it was kind of a foolish decision and a lasting memory that stuck with me for years. So, a friend of mine and I, we were putting up Christmas lights in late November, early December. It was cold out. Then late afternoon, afternoon, and it was already starting to get dark. But we got up on the roof with like a 6-foot step ladder. We stuck that up underneath the roof by the garage, and we kind of just pulled ourselves up onto the roof, and we started hanging Christmas lights. And as it got a little bit later, and it got a little bit darker, and a little bit colder, I couldn't see very well off of the edge of the garage to get down onto the ladder. So I decided what would be safer, instead of climbing down the edge of the garage and hanging over onto the ladder, because we all know what kind of luck I've had with garages, I decided I would go over to a tree that was hanging over towards the edge of the house. And I was going to grab onto that tree because I'd climbed trees before. I knew I could trust trees. I didn't know this tree, but I knew I could do that. So I decided to climb over to this tree. And as I climbed over to that tree, I was going to grab onto the branch and climb across it and climb down the trunk. And when I decided to do that, things didn't go so good for me. So I'm going to tell you about that. But first, let me show you this tree right over here. So my friend's house was right over here, and we got up onto the tree. And as I grabbed onto the tree branch, I noticed my feet were still kind of far away from the rest of the branch, and it was way out past my grip. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and have to let go of the roof and swing out onto this branch. Now, take a look at this tree branch, if you will. On this tree branch, it was hanging out towards the roof, kind of like that one is now. But I wasn't going to jump off of the garage trying to get on the ladder, so I decided instead to grab onto the branch that used to be right there. And as you notice, that branch is no longer there, because when I grabbed onto that branch, something awful happened. So when I grabbed onto that branch and I swung off the roof, trusting in that branch to hold me till I got to the tree trunk, it snapped. And I fell straight to the ground. And it did not feel good. Although it wasn't grass, I fell onto a pile of rocks. I broke 3 ribs, I broke my tailbone, and I even ruptured my kidneys. Went to the hospital, all because I didn't know enough about what I was trusting in. So you have to make sure that you know what you're trusting in will do what you need it to do. I made a big mistake. So don't do what I did. Don't make that mistake. Know who you're trusting.
Did you know that every coin in America has a special message on it? Every coin says, "In God we trust." It's just a simple statement, and it might seem unimportant because we're so familiar with it, but it's actually a really important sentence. It makes a big difference where you're putting your trust. And the coin is right. We should be putting our trust in God. A long time ago, God promised that He was going to provide a solution to everything wrong with the world. And guess what? He kept His promise. He sent Jesus, His only Son, to come to the earth and pay the penalty for everything wrong we've ever done. He died. But then God proved just how reliable He really is, and He raised Jesus from the dead. And now anyone who puts their trust in Jesus, puts their trust in God, is saved from the penalty of their own sin. Do you know why I'm so comfortable sitting in this swing? It's because I trust it. I built it. I know that the anchors that I put in the studs are strong and secure. I know that the rope that I used is plenty strong enough to hold me up. I know that the knots that I tied are good and they're not going to come undone. And so, because of what I know about this swing, I can trust it. I know that it's reliable. I know that it won't let me down. But kids, the same is true about God. The more time you spend getting to know Him, the more time you spend in His Word, and the more you know about His attributes and about His works, the more you'll realize how trustworthy He is. The more you'll realize that God is reliable and He will never let you down.